Сәлеметсіздер ме, құрметті жастар қауымы. Бүгін біз эфирде Жастар Соиlesin подкасты. Бүгінгі эфирде бізбен бірге Рон және Ольга. Бүгінгі тақырып бізде еркін тақырып болып келеді. Бұл жерде Рон өзінің іс тәжірибесімен бөлісіп, өзінің жолымен бөлісетін болады. Және тағы да сіздердің естеріңізге салып отырмын. Бізде Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Telegram тағы да басқа парақшалар бар. Соның барлығына лайк басып, бізбен бірге болыңыздар. Енді Роннан бастап кетсек, сіз өзіңізді таныстырып кетсеңіз.
Саламатсыздар ма? Мен сендермен бірге болғаныма өте қуаныштымын. Мен неге өскеменде болып жатырмын? Өйткені КАСУ деген университетте мен профессор болып істеймін. Және бір халықаралық қоғамдық қормен жұмыс істеймін. Америкадағы орналасқан қоғамдық қор Resource Exchange International деген. Және мен орта азиялық лидер сол қоғамдық қор үшін. Сол себепті біз осы Қазақстанда да, Өзбекстанда жұмыс істеп жүрміз. Және қазір мен әйелмен Самарқанда тұрам. Өйткені Самарқандағы бір Самарқан халықаралық технология университет бар ғой. Және мен сол университетте профессор болып істеймін. Сосын мен өскеменнен Самарқанға барып тұрам.
Күшті ғой. Өте қызықты. Рахмет. Ольга, сіз өзіңіз туралы айтып кетсеңіз.
Okay, so I'm a teacher of English and Global Perspectives at Nazarbayev Intellectual School. I've been working there for almost 13 years. And, well, I've been participant in Ron's workshop, and I've been certified as one of the trainers for an international program.
Thank you. Енді ары қарай жалғастырып кетсек, қазіргі уақытта Рон өзінің жұмыстарымен осы Өскемен қаласына келген болатын. Жаңағы воркшопты өткен болатынбыз. Бізбен бірге өткен Ольга бұл проект бойынша. Және Рон бізге бұл жол беріп, және де оқытқан кісінің бірі болып келеді. Okay, if it possible, we can talk in English. Okay. Olga, you can ask question. If you want, you can ask about Ron's life and everything if you want. So it's free. So, okay, can you tell about how you, at first time, how you come to Kazakhstan?
Certainly, yes. It was actually 1991.
Wow.
It was still the Soviet Union. And my wife and I led an exchange group of students on an exchange to the Soviet Union. We went to Moscow and we spent over 4 weeks there. We were studying Russian language in the morning and touring museums and galleries and monasteries and cathedrals in the afternoons. And we had heard about Central Asia. But back in those days of the Soviet Union, we didn't really know that there was anybody in the Soviet Union except for Russians. And when we learned that there were other people groups, especially in Central Asia, then we decided we wanted to come and see for ourselves. And we came to Almaty for several days and then flew to Tashkent. And that was our introduction to Central Asia, and specifically to Kazakhstan.
Wow.
So then I led another exchange program the next summer to Almaty, and we lived with Kazakh families in their homes, and we began exploring Kazakh cuisine and Kazakh language and culture. And after that trip, my wife and I decided we would like to come and bring our family and to be involved in helping to to develop and educate people in Kazakhstan.
Wow.
So 30 years ago, 1994, we moved with our 4 children to
Wow.
Almaty. And we lived there for 16 years, working mostly in Almaty and in the Jambul region to the
Wow.
west of Almaty. Educational programs, community development programs. Knowing that my educational background was agriculture. I'm men fermerдің баласымын.
Wow.
So I grew up on a farm with animals and driving tractors,
Wow.
and so my bachelor's and master's degrees were in agriculture, and I knew I wanted to work with people in villages. And I knew that most of the people in the villages spoke Kazakh. So that's why I chose to begin learning Kazakh language. And so I was an aspirant at the Gholam Akademiyasında, the Academy of Science, to study Kazakh language specifically for 3 years. And at the same time I began teaching English, and then we launched our Общественный fond called Urken
Urken. Wow.
in Almaty. And through Urken, we were teaching English. We were doing community development in villages. We were translating educational materials for teaching English, for teaching about health and speed, for instance,
Yeah.
education on speed, and other projects. And that took me into the villages near Uzunagash, the Jambul
Uzunagash, yeah,
region. And there we did microenterprise development programs where we taught business principles. We made microloans to the people, helped them start their own micro businesses.
Wow.
And we did that for another 9 years. And so that was our early years in Kazakhstan.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Is your family still with you here?
Just my wife now. Our children, when we arrived in Almaty in 1994, 30 years ago, they were 9 years, 7 years, 2 years, and 2 months old. But they're all grown now. They're all living back in the U.S. now. So it's just my wife and I living here now.
And what's your primary motivation to stay here in Central Asia?
Well, really, it's the same motivation that brought us here in the first place. There's in some of the holy books, there's a statement made that to whom much has been given, from him much will be required. And we realize that as American citizens that we have been given many blessings. We live in a very beautiful and wealthy country, and yes, I grew up on a farm, and yet I was able to attend university and have a good education, to travel all over the world, and I don't take that for granted. I am appreciative of those many blessings, and I realize that because I've received much, that I really owe to the world whatever kind of blessing I can bring, and specifically through education. And also my PhD is in conflict analysis and resolution, and so my work is to be a peacemaker and to help reconcile broken relationships. And so that's what I have dedicated my life to.
That's amazing. And another project you've been taking active role in is CoServe International. Could you tell us more about this initiative?
Well, I became aware of CoServe many years ago, not long after we came to Kazakhstan. And I heard about the work of CoServe in partnering to help create what at that time was called the Kazakh American Business College. and I met Dr. Marshall Christensen, who was the founder of CoServe, and Mr. Dan Ballast, who was a co-founder of КАСУ, and together with Professor Yerzheb Abulkhairovich Mambet-Kaziev, and through them I learned more about the Kazakh American Business College, which is now Kazakh American Free University, or KAFU, KASU, KAEU, and so just knowing about their work and knowing Marshall and Dan, I admired their work, and I admired what they were doing in helping to develop this university in Uskümen. It was through Dan Ballast that I was first invited to visit Uskümen just a little over 4 years ago. And at that time met Professor Mambet-Kaziev and was invited to become part of the faculty at the university. And so COVID interfered, the pandemic intervened and kept us away for a year before my wife and I were able to come back, and I began teaching at the university in 2021. And I teach in the Law and International Relations Department. But then, not so long ago, just last year, I was invited to serve on the board of directors of CoServe. And so I'm really pleased to not only have a close relationship with KAFU, but also to now help lead the organization CoServe.
Wow.
Such a great contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a privilege.
Well, over this period of 30 years, what would you say how the country and the people here have changed?
Well, obviously, yes, a lot has changed. It amazes me that there are now 20 million people in Kazakhstan, citizens here. Yes, when we first visited, I don't know, maybe there were only 12 or 13 million, I'm not sure. And one change that I have seen when we first moved here 30 years ago, many of the kindergartens were being closed down because there weren't very many children. And now you walk down the street and you see families with 3, 4, 5 children. And to me, that means that there is hope now. That maybe 30 years ago, people didn't have as much hope. And maybe they were afraid to bring children into the world. And now I see young families, large families, people wanting to have children. And so many new preschools and kindergartens opening once again. And so for me, that's a sign of hopefulness. And so that's one big change. Of course, another one would just be the development of the English language in this country and among the young people, and the efforts of the government and the Ministry of Education as far as trying to develop Kazakhstan as a trilingual society, and with English being one of those languages. I'm always impressed with the English level that I encounter among people. Especially, we were back in the U.S. for a number of years and didn't get back here very often. And coming back every 2 or 3 years during that time, I saw a lot of change, a lot of progress and development in the level of English. So yeah, so I've seen those changes. I mean, of course, the development of business, the development of Almaty and Astana, as far as the construction and the high-rise office and apartment buildings, and the development of infrastructure, the improvement of of rail lines and highways, the connections to the world through the airlines industry. So many things have come such a long way in those 30 years. And we saw how difficult life could be for people. 1994. There were many of us, myself included, standing in line waiting to buy bread in 1994. And the economy has been developing over these years, and many people have seen their standard of living improve. I know it's not perfect. There's problems in every country, in America as well, as far as there are still people who suffer poverty and challenges, difficulties, and who suffer. But for the most part, we've seen tremendous progress in the economy, in the development of the nation. Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that human thinking has changed as well?
Well, obviously the opportunities for people to encounter people from other societies, from other parts of the world, other nationalities, other languages, through people of Kazakhstan traveling as students, as tourists, as business people. That's affecting people's mentality, absolutely. Plus, the growing number of people coming from other countries to visit Kazakhstan. When I first began studying the Kazakh language, my teacher had me learn many makal mateldir. And one of my favorite ones that I learned early was Jeta Jurtung Tilinbil, Jeta Turla Bilimbil. And I realized that that's just the truth. When you're learning somebody's language, you're learning with that their culture, and your own mindset, your own culture changes as a result.
Sure.
And I can't claim to know 7 languages, but it motivates me. And so I worked hard on Kazakh. I'm not as good at Russian.
Yeah.
We're living in Samarkand now, and so I'm learning Uzbek.
Wow.
I know a few words in Tajik, not so many. And
I think it's similar.
Well,
sometimes. It's
well,
Uzbek
and Kazakh, yeah,
similar.
there are similarities, and that does make it easier for me.
Yeah.
And I end up in a taxi, I'll be using Uzbek, Kazakh, Russian, and some English, and we find a way to communicate, right? But I do believe that by having made that effort to learn Kazakh and Russian and now Uzbek, that it's opened up my mind. It's changed the way I think. It's changed the way I see the world.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful. I'm really thankful, especially to my very patient Kazakh friends who helped me to practice and, to make mistakes, and lovingly corrected me and helped me improve my pronunciation, my grammar, etc. That process, it's not just a mental process of studying a language. It's a relationship with people that makes learning a language possible. And it was sitting and drinking cup after cup, pot after pot of tea with my Kazakh friends and our loan clients in the villages. That was the basis of me developing not just my knowledge and my experience, but my love for the Kazakh language and culture. And when my wife and I came back to Kazakhstan in 2019, we began working hard to try to improve our Russian language too.
Wow.
because we knew it wasn't as good as it needed to be, and we wanted to be able to have better relationships with people who spoke Russian.
Но вы на русском тоже понимаете.
Я понимаю, но я делаю много ошибок на русском.
Fine. I mean, people who speak several languages don't speak all of them perfectly.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You're kind. But no, I'm glad to continue to work. You know, my first Russian teacher taught me учиться никогда не поздно. I know no matter how old I am, it's not too late. I'll keep trying to learn new languages.
Yeah.
So.
One time when I was in America, I met one man. He came from Soviet Union, and he said that after 2 years he fluently speaking English. He lived in US just 2 years. After 2 years, he fluently speak, because I think everyone in America speak just in English. So I think it will be one way to learn language. For example, in Kazakhstan, if all people will talk in Kazakh language, everyone will know Kazakh language, I think. So.
Well, you know, the thing that I learned early when we were beginning to study Kazakh and Russian was that in order to learn any language, you have to make 1,000,000 mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot be afraid, you cannot be ashamed.
Yeah.
It's just necessary.
Yeah.
And so it's the motivation that makes the difference, that will help us to push through our feelings of shame.
Yeah.
That we don't speak perfectly. If you think you have to speak perfectly before you open your mouth, you'll never learn and you'll never speak. But like I said, patient friends who helped me, who gave me suggestions and corrections, and especially my pronunciation, my grammar, they helped me not feel shame for my mistakes, which encouraged me to keep trying.
Yeah, I see.
And another secret of learning anything, honestly, but especially languages, is just to say, okay, I can't do that yet. That's the important word.
Yeah.
Yet.
But.
Еще. Я не могу. Правильно. Говорить по-русски.
Yeah.
No, but I'm going to keep trying. Yeah. And so that's the encouragement I would offer is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You'll need to make many, many, many more before you ever are fluent. And don't give up. You will.
Yeah.
You just can't. If I can't, it's because I just can't yet.
There is one very clever thing, I believe, which is quite often used as a joke, but I think it's very, very true, that only people who do nothing make no mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's wisdom. That is wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about your microcredit organization.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us more about your organization? How do you help people? How did you help people?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, we operated that as a program, like I said, in the Jambul Rayon, west of Almaty, for 9 years, from 2000 to 2009. And during those years, our program was not just microcredit, it was community development. And we worked with the people living in those 5 villages to study and understand what they felt their needs were for the economic and social development of their communities. And they identified economic development as a priority, and that was why we chose to organize a microcredit program. It was just a small program, but we were able to secure grant funding from some charities in the US, the UK, and the Netherlands who wanted to support that type of economic development. We studied other microcredit programs in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan to understand best practices in opening and operating such a program. And then we first did a pilot test with one group of 6 men in the village of Yengbekşe Aral.
Yengbekşe Aral, yeah.
Yes. And we made them each small loans. I think it was maybe $300 each for 6 months. And they were responsible for each other.
Wow.
If one failed to pay, none of them would get any more loans. And so we used that social pressure of them encouraging and helping each other to complete their obligations of paying back the loans. And because that was successful, then we began to offer business trainings to more and more people. We spread from Yengbekşe Aral to 4 other nearby villages. And during those nine years, we served several hundred clients. And
Wow.
most of them received 3 separate loans. The first one for about $150, then $300, then $500. And quite a few of them went on to organize growing businesses, anything from livestock projects to opening shops, to buying a car to drive as a taxi, to buying and selling milk, just a variety of projects. But we saw many people's lives improve economically. And we were able to then work with the people in those villages and with the Akimat, both the regional Akimat and the district of those villages, to organize some projects that, for instance, help them to improve the water supply and replace a burned out pump for their drinking water, and repair a bridge over the river that flowed by the village, and other projects that were for the benefit of all the people in the village. And so we did that, for a total of 9 years.
They had like these problems in television, but I didn't see it in real life. But it's very good that you can help lots of people.
Yeah, and again, like I said, it was our motivation was because we felt like we had been blessed by God in many ways, from the life that we were given growing up in, and honestly, our program was not just Americans. We had a Dutch woman, a Malaysian man, several local Kazakhs working with us, and so it was a multi-national program. And the people in the villages welcomed us and fed us and served tea, and we worked together. We worked together to make a successful microfinance program and community development program. Yeah.
I think we, like a multinational country, I think it will be the main thing for us, because we work together. We know lots of languages, and we know we respect all traditions. For example, we live with lots of nations like Russian, Kazakh, Chechenets, and Armenians, Gruzin, Uyghur, lots of.
Yeah.
If you say about more languages. So, can you tell us about your experience and how young people can become better? Than
Yeah, well, I think that the most important advice that I would want to offer young people is to focus on improving their relationships, strengthening relationships. We're all human beings and we all make mistakes, and when we make mistakes in relationships, we hurt each other. And sometimes we're too ashamed to admit our mistakes and to admit how we have hurt other people.
Yeah.
It can be our own parents, our own brothers or sisters or friends. And so what I want to encourage any person, but especially young people, is to value your relationships. Recognize that in the end, there's nothing more important than having good, strong relationships. And all of us need them. None of us can succeed in life alone.
Yeah.
We need good relationships. And so what does that require? Well, it requires sometimes saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Will you forgive me?
Yeah.
That's not easy.
Yeah.
Most people are either too proud or too ashamed, strangely enough,
Yeah.
to be able to say words like that and to make that request. Will you forgive me? I think, especially I think as a father and now as a grandfather,
Wow.
the words that mean the most to me from my children and from my grandson are, I love you.
Wow.
And I didn't grow up in a family that used those words very often. But even my father learned to say that before he died. And he could say to me, I love you, son, and I could tell him, I love you. Some people, that was not my family's culture, and yet my dad even learned. At 90 years old, he could say that. And I encourage anyone to say it and mean it. Not the kind of love that's in the songs, the pop songs and that kind of thing. No, real relationships. And so to say, I love you, I'm sorry, I forgive you, or will you forgive me? These are the kind of things that can help either repair relationships or make relationships that are already good even stronger. And so don't be afraid, don't be ashamed to say those kind of things and to mean it and to be serious about trying to improve your relationships with other people.
So it's very impressive, I think.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't know what questions. So, can you tell for young people how to make good business, for example, good at their work? How to be success in your work, for example?
Well, again, it's not just learning business principles or marketing skills or things like that. the foundation of any kind of success in life, and that's just as true of business as it is of any other field, is determine what are your values, what is most important to you in your life that you won't compromise on.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, do you value honesty?
Mm-hmm.
Do you value speaking only the truth? Do you value relationships? Do you value other people? And then build your life, build your business, build your career, whatever you choose, on your values. And stick to your values, even when you come under pressure from other people to compromise. Maybe people saying, hey, go ahead,
Can't do
cheat,
it. Yeah.
cheat, steal. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, everybody doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And it does matter. And it's been said by one of the prophets, he who is faithful in a very little thing will be faithful in much. And it's those small decisions that we make, whether it's to be honest, to tell the truth, to stick to our values, to show kindness to someone else, to demonstrate love to someone, to admit when we're wrong and ask forgiveness. Those small choices build over time, and they build our character. And yeah, one of the mantras that I grew up with, I was taught when I was very young, is that you know the word to sow, like sowing seed, S-O-W, sow.
Yeah.
Sow a thought, reap, which is harvest, an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. Each of our destinies begins with our thoughts and our acts, including our words. Our words are acts, right? And so make choices to grow, if you will, your character. And you will determine what your destiny is, whether it'll be what we might consider a successful life. I think if you reach the end of your life and you have, in my case, my wife, my children, my grandson, and my friends around me, and we have built a loving life together, that to me will be success. It's not going to be how many cars or how big they are or how big my house is, or no, it's going to be the relationships.
Yeah.
When I'm on my deathbed, I don't care about cars, houses. I care about my family, and I want them with me.
I heard that that some people who is very rich, they can't be happy because sometimes they don't feel happy.
They always feel stressed taking care of their belongings, possessions, and good things around them.
Yeah, no. People, relationships, those are what really matter in the final analysis. That's what I believe. That's how I've tried to live my life.
I agree with you, I think. Yeah. So, and the last thing for conclusion, I just want to ask Olga what you can tell in the end of this podcast. What did you take from this podcast for you? What did you understand?
Well, I think that you've sown quite a few thoughts, quite a few ideas to consider. And actually, well, taking the ideas from the workshops you've done with us and these ideas, I do agree that the relationships between people is the most precious thing in the world, and that we do need to develop and we need to initiate the change in ourselves. Thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you.
So thank you for you come to our podcast. So I think this information was very useful for our young people. Енді аяқ жағын қазақ тілінде жалғастырып кетсем, рұқсат болса. Бізбен болған Рон және Ольга, бүгінгі тақырып бізде ашық тақырып болды. Сұрақтарыңыз болса, бізге тікелей жазсаңыздар болады. Және Рон өзіңіз білетін қазақ тіліндегі мәтелдеріңіз болса айтып кетсеңіз.
Тек қана сендермен бірге болғаныма өте қуаныштымын. Рахмет.
Рахмет, өте рахмет. Жақсы, алып қосарыңыз болса, Ольга, if you have some meaning, some words, you can tell us now.
Well, the only thing I can say is just keep developing, keep learning, and keep initiating the changes around you and building relationships with the people around you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we can finish. So, и давайте, может, еще и добавлю на русском языке, чтобы у нас все-таки было трехязычие, да?
Это нас совсем мало было.
Да. Поэтому, Ольга, если есть что-то добавить, вы можете на русском языке что-то добавить.
Мне кажется, я уже все сказала, что хотела. Да, тем, кто смотрит подкаст, пожалуйста, учитесь, развивайтесь, стройте отношения с окружающими вас людьми. Это действительно самое ценное, что может быть в нашей жизни.
Да. И самое главное, подписывайтесь, ставьте лайки. Получается, у нас есть социальные сети в Инстаграме, в ТикТоке, в Фейсбуке, в Телеграме. Я думаю, все наши видео вы можете посмотреть полностью на Ютубе и на Фейсбуке. Осымен аяқтасақ болады деп ойлаймын. Барлықтарыңызға рахмет. Енді келесі кездескенше керекті ақпараттарды алдыңыздар деп ойлаймын. Сұрақтарыңыз болса, бізге жазыңыздар. Все, всем пока.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.